Hi, and thank you for watching us here at Tax Talk UK, where we talk about all things tax and consider other important aspects of working for yourself, being self-employed, running a small business. So today we're going to talk about how to maximise your CIS refund. Before I do, if I could please ask you to take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you will easily be able to refer back to this information if you should need to, as well as finding other information that we have on a whole host of different topics, all aimed at supporting you and making you successful in your self-employment. For CIS contractors and subcontractors, we have specifically a playlist with our information that is specifically for yourselves. So back then to maximising your CIS rebate. So of course, what you will be aware from the other information that we've talked about is that your CIS rebate is calculated by firstly assessing your tax liability. So you basically would be adding up all of your income for the tax year and then deducting your expenditure. This then creates your taxable profit, and that is what the tax is calculated on, your tax and your national insurance if you are a sole trader. So if we consider then how we can maximise the rebate, well, the rebate arises from the tax that has been deducted throughout the year, the CIS that's been deducted throughout the year, sorry, being more than the tax liability that you owe to HMRC. And in this instance, once your self-assessment tax return is submitted to HMRC and that states on there the CIS that has been deducted through the year, if it turns out that those deductions are more than the liability, then once those deductions are moved onto your self-assessment account, you will in fact have a tax overpayment, and this is where the rebate arises. So quite often it's helpful to make that process of working back from the end result, so we can see the process that we need to follow. So that is the end result, that is how you achieve your rebate. So stepping back to how you maximize that rebate, of course, this is making sure that you correctly claim for all of the expenditure, and rather than just seeing yourself as a sole trader and a tradesman, actually considering what you are doing as a business will help you to understand a little bit more about some of the costs that you can claim as allowable expenses that you may be not doing so, because of course the lower your tax liability is, then when we consider the CIS deductions against this, the more that's going to be left for you to have as a rebate. So of course it is important that your tax return is accurate and your accounts that you are providing to HMRC are accurate, and that you are only claiming allowable expenses. So what I'm suggesting is that you need to make sure that you are claiming all of the allowable expenses that you can. Something that can be quite common for people to forget is you invoice your contractor for labour, and in some instances materials and supplies as well. And of course, no deduction will be made for the materials and supplies on the basis that no profit is going to be achieved. You invoice your contractor and you pay out to your supplier, and the two offset each other, and it's only the labour element that actually you would be making any money on, unless of course you're marking up the materials. But even in that instance, it's only the markup that would actually be profit. So something that's really important to remember is if you are charging your contractor for materials and supplies, that you are remembering when you're calculating your expenses to include the cost out in those expenses. And it sounds really obvious when we talk about it openly like this, but it can be really easy for a subcontractor to simply add up all of their invoices, report that as their income, and then forget to actually allow for the cost out. Because if you don't allow for the costs out in that scenario where you've charged your contractor for materials and you've paid out to your supplier, so therefore you haven't made any money, if you aren't claiming the costs out to your supplier as allowable expenses, then effectively you're incorrectly telling HMRC that that was profit when it wasn't. So that's one common thing that people do forget. But then it's also important to make sure that everything that you have incurred cost-wise in creating that income is included as an expense. And we have other videos available which give more detail on the sort of things and how to decide whether something is an allowable expense. But the starting point would be to think, firstly, would I be able to do my work without this? So then that would make you think, for example, oh, well, I wouldn't be able to work without a phone because then people wouldn't be able to contact me. So then you need to consider, have you claimed anything for your phone costs? And then you also need to consider, well, if I wasn't doing this work, would I have incurred this cost? So, for example, if you've brought tools specifically to do your trade, to be able to carry on your business and your trade, then have you included those as allowable costs or capital allowances as appropriate? So really you need to be thinking as well, how are you getting to your jobs? Do you have a dedicated van for business use? Do you use a personal vehicle? Either way, and again, that's a little bit more of a complex subject. We have a different video available that can help you on whether you're able to claim the costs or whether you're able to claim business mileage. But all of these things, if your business is reliant on them, it is likely that some element at least will be allowable. We've also talked in other videos about simplified expenses, which is ideal for a tradesman who, perhaps there's an overlap between personal and business use of items, because of course, if you are using something for your personal use and your business use, then it may be that there is something allowable for the business use, but you also have to make some allowance for the personal use. But these are all things that if you are correctly claiming, then they will reduce your profit. They will offset against the invoices that you've made to your contractor to reduce the profit that you have made in the tax year legitimately, and that will therefore reduce the tax liability, because it is your profit that is your taxable income, and your profit is what's used as a base to calculate your income tax and also your self-employed national insurances. So the way to maximize any rebate that you may achieve is to make sure that you are legitimately claiming all of the allowable expenses that you are entitled to. So as I mentioned, we have other videos to help you to understand what is allowable expenses. There's lots of information on gov.uk, and in the links to our videos, we always have the relevant links to the relevant section in them. So if you feel that you're not claiming all of the allowable expenses that you are able to, then do take some time to look through the videos and understand, to make sure that you are claiming everything. And of course, as we always say, if it's something you're struggling with, if you feel overwhelmed, if you're not sure whether you're claiming things that you shouldn't or whether you aren't claiming things that you should, then these would be the time to consider having some professional help and engaging an advisor that's specifically qualified in that area to be able to help you. And you will find that by claiming everything that you are entitled to will actually offset some of the cost, depending obviously on the figures involved. So it can be well worth it, especially if you're claiming things that you shouldn't be claiming. That can be very costly at the point that HMRC realise this and start looking back into previous years. So hopefully this helps you to understand how to maximise your CIS rebate by legitimately just making sure that you're claiming all of the costs that you are able to. We have other videos available that can help you to do that, because of course completing a self-assessment tax return as a CIS subcontractor, apart from the fact that you are recording the CIS that you have had deducted or suffered throughout the year, a lot will be the same as for any other sole trader. So have a look through that playlist too. Hopefully this has helped you, and thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.